Admiral Di Paola, would you explain to our viewers why NATO training mission in Afghanistan is so important?
Well, it's very simple. We are approaching to a moment in which probably in Lisbon they will discuss the transition. Transition, which means transitioning the leadership in security to Afghan security forces. For that to happen, we need trainer, because we need to have some security forces of Afghanistan which can take care of their own security, can take the lead. And for that to happen, trainers are quintessential. That's why it's very simple. As you send students to school, they need teacher. We need teacher for allow the security forces of Afghanistan to take the lead in their own security. That is the core message for transition, which I think will probably emerge in Lisbon.
General Caldwell, in an interview you said that the development of the Afghan security force was inconsistent from the beginning of 2002 to November 2009. Did you manage to reverse this trend, and how?
Well, no, it was. The training of the Afghan security force has been very inconsistent. But through the trainers that we have been able to receive from NATO this past year, we literally have reversed what was a negative trend. This very month last year, the Afghan National Army declined in overall strength by about 1,200 soldiers. They weren't growing, they were declining in strength. And yet in the last 10 months, NATO training mission has been able to recruit, train, and assign over 100,000 young Afghan recruits into the police and army. So the trend has definitely been reversed. There's very positive movement that's going forward. We're very encouraged by what we are seeing through the use of all the NATO trainers.
By 31st of October 2011, the Afghan National Security Force should reach 305,000. It means that from now you will need to recruit and train about 140,000 soldiers and police. What are the main challenges in front of you?
No, you're right. There's a monumental task ahead. We've made tremendous progress over the last 10 months. We've got great momentum going right now, but what's going to be key is to sustain that momentum. And to keep this momentum going forward, we're going to need some additional NATO trainers. We're going to need NATO trainers that have specialty skill sets that can come in to help us to continue to professionalize and to grow those unique capabilities in the Afghan police and in the Army that are going to enable them to sustain and endure and be a self-sustaining force. So, real challenges ahead, but incredible progress that has been made this far. And what we want to do is sustain that momentum forward.
Admiral Di Paola, you and the Secretary General, you are using every opportunity to invite the Allies to send more trainers. Did you receive recently more positive answers? Can you give us an update?
Well, you know that there has been a few days ago a fourth-generation conference for ISAF, and in particular one of the main requirements was clearly the requirement to fulfill the shortfall that we still have in this area. There has been some positive response, so there is some movement. It's not there yet. It's not, we don't get yet what we fully need, what this general needs, because he's doing a tremendous job. We need to supply him the resources he needs. But the nation are moving, the nation are start to understanding. We will continue to do that. We'll continue to apply convincing pressure to the allies and to our partner, because we are a 49-nation coalition. We are not just NATO, 49 allied coalition to do what is necessary, what the head of state government says is necessary. Move to transition. A transition means trainer. No trainer, no transition. That is simple. So we hope that the response will come in time, but that is the time we have to apply. We have to do what we say we need to do. We need to start transition. For doing that, we need training.
As far as I'm understanding, you are not just training soldiers and commanders. You have to deal with illiteracy and with the corruption in the security forces to make them credible. How do you manage to do so?
Well, that's a great question. Our number one challenge in the NATO training mission is how do we professionalize this force? And we know to professionalize it, we have to develop leaders. We have to take on the literacy challenge, which is significant. And we also have to stop the losses that come through attrition. And so those are the three areas that we're very much focused on. And literacy is a very, very important one. It's literally a matter of life and death for the Afghan security force. Literacy is a matter of life and death. If you can't read numbers and letters, you can't be taught how to read a map. If you can't read a map, then you can't pass your location to other people who can bring assistance and help to you if you're in a combat operation. about a month ago, there was an Afghan force that was operating out in the west inside of Afghanistan. Very competent, well-led, well-trained, well-equipped force. Had no coalition advisors with them. They got in a firefight, and when they radioed in and asked for medical helicopters to come in to evacuate some of their wounded, they had no idea how to pass their location, because not one soldier in this entire formation of about 80 men could read a map, because none of them were literate. And so it's an incredible challenge. We've got about 27,000 in training today. We'll have about 50,000 by this December. And by next summer, at any given time, we'll have about 100,000 young men and some women in literacy programs in order to get us to about a first or third grade level, just enough to read numbers and understand their letters.
This year we had some cases of members of the Afghan security force attacking ISAF soldiers. How do you manage to combat the infiltrators and the use of drugs?
Well, what I can tell you, when we bring a new recruit into the Army, the police, the Air Force, we're very diligent about how we now process them in through the system. They go through a biometric screening. We check their fingerprints. We do a retinal eye scan. We require them to have 2 letters of certification as to their willingness to serve and be honest and upstanding people. And that's just to get into the security force itself. We go through that process, and then once they're in, we spend a lot of time watching their actions and observing how they respond to things, and that actually gives us a good indication of who they are and what kind of character that person may have. Part of it comes from developing an ethos, this idea that you're there to serve your country, that you're there to protect and serve the people of Afghanistan, not to profit and be served. And so we spend a lot of time inculcating through our NATO trainers, who are very, very professional trainers, this idea of professionalism and service to country. And that has a real positive impact too. And when they see the professionals, when they see the European Gendarmerie Force, when they see the NATO and the coalition trainers that are there, a part of this force, they want to emulate them and be like them. And when they do, the idea of using drugs now gets pushed to the side a little more, because they recognize that if you're going to be a professional, drugs have no place in your business.
One of the arguments for the President Karzai's decision to ban private security companies was that it will help for the enforcement of the Afghan security force. What is your reaction on this decision, and do you think that it will help to overcome the attrition, for example?
Well, first of all, let me say this: the spirit of the decree of the President Karzai is legitimate. It is legitimate that he wants the Afghan security forces in the end to be in a position to do what their job is. So in principle and in spirit, we concur with it. The problem is, as always, the implementation. We will have this decree will have to be implemented in a way that does not have a negative impact on the security situation. So within this, the spirit is okay, the implementation is key. That's what Commander has always said. We need to work with the Afghan government so that the implementation does not damage the security situation. So it is condition-based, depending, and not all the contractors are the same. So the implementation is key, and that is important.
General Caldwell, listening about all the challenges you have to meet, one would say that your mission is mission impossible. What motivates you to carry on?
You know,